Hello, thank you for listening to A Glimpse of the Kingdom. I'm Dr. David Pendergrass. Today I want to talk about something that is a major topic for almost, if not every religion on the planet to some degree, because it's part of the human condition, and that is suffering. Everyone knows Siddhartha Gautama, or the Buddha. The Buddha himself said that all life involves suffering, or dukkha, as they call it. All of it involves suffering, and since everything involves suffering, the goal is to stop suffering. Well, the reason why you suffer is because you have desires, or tanha, as they call them. So the whole goal of existence, at least while you're on earth, is to stop having desires so you don't suffer. Because the whole goal of existence at large is to stop existing. Yes, that is Buddhism in a nutshell. That's what the Buddha taught. Because you're stuck reincarnating over and over and over in a cycle of samsara, and the goal is to reach nirvana, or as nirvana translates, maybe like extinguished. So the goal is to stop having desires so you don't suffer. If you don't suffer and you stop having desires, you can live a virtuous life and then reach nirvana. So he argued that all life involves suffering. That's just one religion of many religions. All religions have to say something about why there's suffering in the world. By the way, not just religious people, but everybody has a worldview. So it's a fair question for atheists, for people who believe in a flat earth. I mean, everybody has to answer the question, if you think about it, why do you think there is suffering in the world? So this is not a Christian problem. It's not a religious problem. It's a human problem, which means every single person who gives an answer can either be compelling or not compelling. For example, in Hinduism, all of life is an illusion. Now, not every Hindu thinks this, but it's a large segment of Hindu scholarship believes that it's all illusion. Well, I don't find that compelling. I think that suffering is a real thing. I think that humans are real. I think that morality is real and so forth. My point is only here. I'm not talking about Hinduism or Buddhism today. I'm only saying all religions, and even atheists, have to figure out why they're suffering. Atheists are going to say, well, because we evolved, and that's what it takes to survive. So there's all kinds of explanations for why we suffer. It's not a Christian problem. But by far, the most common explanation for why a person can't believe in any God at all, and certainly not the Christian God, and the number one reason why Christians leave their faith, is because of evil and suffering. Now, there's a whole lot of work on this issue. You can do a lot of research and figure out where the classic arguments come from, but they've been around for a long, long time. And let me put this just in a colloquial, real simple way. The classic argument goes like this. If God is all good, or you might say omnibenevolent, if you like your Latin words, all good, he wouldn't allow evil and suffering. If God were all powerful, he wouldn't allow evil and suffering. Or you might say omnipotent for all powerful. So either God is either not all good or not all powerful, or perhaps both. So it goes like this. There is no way, let me say another way. There is no way an all good, all powerful being would allow evil and suffering. Therefore, God doesn't exist. Now, however you look at it, however the argument goes, basically that's what it comes down to. That's it. Now, let me say a few things in response to that if I can. First, let's get one type of suffering out of the way with celerity, namely, suffering caused by someone else's evil choices. Now, every time someone is murdered, beat up, raped, lied to, betrayed, etc., it's because a human has made an evil choice. So to be clear, when a free-willed moral agent decides not to do the right thing or the good thing, but instead chooses the bad, wrong, evil thing, it can involve causing another person to suffer. And of course, it sure is easy to focus on the suffering other people cause with their evil choices and not pay attention to the suffering that we cause when we choose to do evil. Evil choices aren't just done in other people. Suffering isn't just caused by other people. We do it, and we do it well. This kind of suffering, that is, suffering caused by someone else's evil choices, isn't usually that difficult for people to accept rationally. So to answer the question, quote, where is God when people suffer from another human's evil choices? Where is God when people suffer from someone else's evil choices? We say with ease. Well, he's certainly aware and very, very disappointed that that person is doing the evil. God hates evil. The Christian God, by the way, I'm going to assume every time I say God, unless I say otherwise, I mean the Christian God. The one doing evil could have just as easily done the right thing. This is why hell is a moral necessity. Moral agents who choose evil will receive a response from God, and they won't like it. Our evil choices do not go unnoticed. And remember, free will is a great, great good. It allows for morality, good choices, and good character. It allows us to do genuine good deeds to the other humans, animals, and creation. So, to say it once more before moving on, there is no reason to have outrage over suffering caused by evil choices humans make. It is not God's fault at all that a person chooses evil and causes suffering. It's humanity's fault. It is simply ridiculous to blame God for a person's choices. Be mad at them. Be outraged at them. God is not to blame for what free-willed moral agent chooses. This is why evil has nothing to do with God's goodness. Humans are to blame. Has nothing to do with God's power, because God doesn't control our free will. Now, let that sink in. This is why evil has nothing to do with God's goodness, because humans are to blame. That is, God can be all good, and there is suffering from evil choices, because humans are to blame. God can be all powerful, and people suffer because of evil choices, because God doesn't force us to have a certain will. We have free will, freedom. By free will, I mean there is no exterior compulsion or authority over my choices. That's all I mean. I am not free to think like a woman. I'm not a woman, I'm a man. So of course I have limitations. I am not absolutely uncontrollably free. To say it one more time, I believe by freedom, I mean there's no exterior compulsion or authority making me do something, making my choices. Whether I choose to eat pizza or fish, I choose it just because I'm a human agent. I choose in my mind what I want to do. So God is not to blame for the evil in the world. What I choose to do with my free will is my choice. What Jeffrey Dahmer chose to do with his free will to kill people and eat them was his free choice. Mother Teresa's free will. Jesus had free will. Humans have free will, and what we choose to do with it is our responsibility. That allows us to have genuine opportunity to love. I can serve you because you make me. I can serve you because you might threaten that you're going to punish me. But for me to give a genuine, free, loving act, I have to be free to do it, which means I have to be free to not love, which is the opposite, of course, and that's evil. The bottom line is, it's not a rational problem at all that people have free will. God made us with free will because he wants us to be able to freely love each other and freely love him. Otherwise, we're just robots. We're just automatons, and that's not what we need to be. Second, there is a kind of suffering that any rational human basically accepts. This is the kind of suffering we experience when we're the cause of the suffering, or when we've given someone else permission to cause me to suffer. I'll say that one more time. It's the kind of suffering we experience when we're the cause of the suffering, or when we've given someone else permission to cause me to suffer. When my muscles hurt after I've been in the gym, it's perfectly acceptable to me. It's my fault. I chose it. I chose to go to the gym. That kind of suffering is acceptable and fair. When I suffer at the doctor's office, when the needle is inserted into my arm, it's perfectly acceptable to me. It's my fault that I went to the doctor when sick. I chose to be in this position and knew the consequences. There is no moral outcry over this kind of suffering. I might not like it when the needle's in my arm, but there's no moral outcry. How dare you, doctor? Right? I chose to go to the doctor. I knew the consequences, and I gave the doctor permission to cause me to suffer. Now, the same is true for suffering that other people experience when they are the cause of the suffering. For example, when someone crushes a can on their forehead and causes a terrible headache after, that's perfectly acceptable to me. It's his fault. He's the moron. That suffering is acceptable and fair. There's no moral outcry over this kind of suffering. That person just chose to cause their own suffering. If I want to hit myself in the face and it stings and hurts, that's the same thing. I chose it. Other people can choose their own pain. So, No one has a moral outcry for that. So there's no real moral outcry, the fact that people do evil, and there's no real moral outcry for suffering that I do to myself, or that I let someone do to me, or when I see other people suffer themselves because they caused it. Well, that's almost all suffering on the planet. That's almost all suffering. Think about it. Think how much suffering goes on in the world because of evil choices, murder, rape, stealing, gossip, and then suffering that person just does to themselves because they're just being stupid or they're immature. The bike ride, they were trying to do a trick and they fell down and broke their leg. Why would God let them break their leg? If he were good, he would have protected them. I would say, dummy, don't try that trick again or get better at it before you try it on the real pavement. But why is there wouldn't be a moral outcry over that. By default, no one gets mad about that. The kind of suffering that demands an explanation by most people is when a person suffers, don't miss this, for a reason that is not caused by the person. That is, people especially demand to know why suffering occurs when a person is a victim. It's basic human psychology. We all want to know why we're experiencing suffering to determine if the suffering is fair or not. One of the most disturbing things I've ever heard, ever, besides my wife saying, "Can I buy this?" is, I'm sorry, that was a bad joke. I'm about to say something serious and that sounds awful. Really, seriously, one of the most disturbing things I've ever heard was when a woman called, I think it was on the news, I heard a woman called 911, and they played the call. She was fighting off an attacker who was about to rape her. And she yelled out repeatedly, why, through her tears, screaming in panic, why? Now, do we really think that she wanted an intellectual reason for why she was about to be raped so that being raped would be okay with her? Well, that's nonsense. The reason why she bursts out with those repeated demands to know why is because of humanity's deep-rooted sense of justice. It's not fair that this man is about to rape her. It's not fair. She wants to know why he would do this to her when she's done nothing to deserve it. If he were to give her a reason that he thought was justification, would she have said, "Oh, I get it, go ahead and rape me"? Of course not, because she's a victim. I imagine another thing she would have screamed out had it occurred to her in that horrible event is this: "Don't do this. This isn't fair. I don't deserve this." And she'd be right. She would be vindicated. He should be in prison being raped. My point now is this. The moral outcry people have towards suffering really only occurs when a person feels that the suffering isn't fair, when it's not deserved. We demand to know why. When the person who is suffering isn't the cause of the suffering or didn't give someone else permission to cause the person suffering, well, then we're a victim. So the real problem with suffering is this. Here it is. There is suffering in the world that is not the person's fault. That's what bothers people. And the demand humans have from God is this: why do you allow suffering for which there seems to be no justification? That is, why do humans suffer at times when it wasn't their fault? Why would God cause or allow that kind of suffering? That's a good question. That's a fair question. And I have a lot more to say about it in the next podcast. Now, if you caught this podcast through Twitter, make sure you go to iTunes. On iTunes, look for the podcast, A Glimpse of the Kingdom. A Glimpse of the Kingdom on iTunes, and you'll find all the podcasts I've given. And you'll be sure to find part 2, where I respond to, from a Christian perspective, to give you answers to the question, why does God allow suffering for which there seems to be no justification? Suffering that doesn't seem to be fair. God bless you, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to A Glimpse of the Kingdom. If you would like to ask me a question, contact me on Twitter at Dr. D. Pendergrass, at Dr. D. Pendergrass, and I'll do my best to address your question sometime on the air. And if not, doesn't mean I don't like you, just means I didn't have a chance to get to it. So let me know what your questions are. If you want more theological reflection, go to davidpendergrass.com. If you want more information about what I do in consulting leadership consulting and consulting for churches, and also my marriage workshop, go to davidpendergrassconsulting.com.